Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Purpose Summit. I'm Sue Erda. I'm your host for this event. And as I've been saying during this whole summit, I am so grateful to be able to introduce you to these amazing women who are the co-authors of the book, Women Living on Purpose. And they're just awesome. One story that they have, one practice that they share, one wisdom that they share is so much like they just keep building on each other. So you're going to love hearing from them. You're going to love reading their stories in this book. Today, I get the honor of talking with Dr. Moira Forsythe. She actually wrote the foreword for our book, and I know Moira for a few years because I've worked with her as her publisher. She's written a beautiful book of her own titled Infinite Journey, which I know that you would love because you're on this journey of purpose of your own, because you're listening today. I know you're going to love her story of Infinite Journey and how that will help you in your own life as well. So I'm going to read a brief introduction of Moira, and then we'll get started talking with her. Dr. Moira Forsythe is an IPEC-certified professional leadership coach and naturopathic practitioner whose passion for empowering others to live their best lives has been a central theme for her for over 35 years. Moira regularly lectures nationally and internationally to large groups on the topics of bioenergetics and lifestyle balance. Living above 8,500 feet in a remote area of the Rocky Mountains gives her a unique perspective of what balance with the natural world can look, feel, and be like. Moira also holds professional certifications in positive psychology, core dynamics leadership, group coaching, and energy leadership coaching. She has led transition and empowerment mastermind groups for entrepreneurs, women, and athletes for over 15 years. Her success with emerging entrepreneurs seeking to change the social culture of the world is making a difference around the globe. And Moira, I am happy to talk with you today. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, Sue. Thanks so much.
Great. We've had many conversations, and I always learn something when I talk to you because I know that like me, we've lived a lot of life. We have lots of stuff to share, and you just have, like you said, a unique perspective on that. And I like the title you chose for today, Embrace the Nuances of Personal Expression as Your Gift to the World. And I just love that. We're going to get into that. Let's start with this because we're talking about purpose. How does somebody know if they are living on purpose? Like, you're living on purpose. How does somebody know this?
Well, I think one of the quotes that I want to share initially speaks to that, and it's from Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. And he said, listen to what your conscience commands you to do and go on to carry it out to the best of your knowledge. And I think in today's world, we have so much noise in our lives that it's difficult sometimes to listen to what your conscience is commanding you to do. And if we can just find a way to step back a little bit from the noise and open our hearts to what guidance is coming in for us, then we will start to hear things that are urging us to try things out, go a certain way, go down a certain path. And it's finding the courage to step into doing that then leads us to the knowing. And so it's about being willing to step back into the quiet from time to time to see what listening might bring to you. And it's not a skill set, I think, that we are encouraged to develop as we go through life, as we go through school, as we go through trainings, and certainly not as we engage in whatever occupation or profession we might choose. But it's still the pathway to finding out what is true for you and where your purpose might lie.
So what I'm hearing you say, I think, is, and you're talking about really this word that I know you love, curiosity, right?
Yes.
So in order to find that, that's where curiosity, I think, comes into play. Talk a little bit about that. What does that mean for us? How do we get more curious, and how do we follow that?
Well, in the book that I wrote, Infinite Journey, I speak to where we can find guidance for how to be curious. And it starts with reflecting on what's around us in nature, which for most people is children, in terms of looking at the most curious creatures in humanity that exist. Children are so curious that as adults, because we've stepped away from that natural curiosity, we might find it irritating. So imagine a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old who's just learning how to express their interpretation of the world around them. And that question of why is this? Well, why is that? Why is that? And children will take that curiosity to an infinite process. They'll never stop. And for some reason, somewhere along the way in our educational process, we're told to stop, when actually, again, if you just take back a few steps into that quiet place, questions will pop up in terms of what is going on, what else is possible, how do we move through this situation or scenario or problem. And so really just allowing, again, our own natural tendencies to explore gives us a sense of what curiosity can feel like. And then typically, as you're curious about what exists, your curiosity expands into what else is possible and where does it lead you. And so looking at nature, looking at children, looking at those raw, authentic places that curiosity exists is one way of instilling it in ourselves again.
Yeah, I love that. One of the things I always say, like questions, I love questions. And one of the things I say often, and I remind myself, questions are my friend. It's like if I can get away from that certainty that I have in my life, then I realize what's outside of what I'm certain about, and that's really the beautiful thing. And I love exploring that. And it's sometimes it's scary, right? Because we want to have certainty in our lives. And yet I learned this when I was learning meditation. I think it was Deepak Chopra, and it was a quote says, "In my uncertainty, I find my security," which it seems counterintuitive, but it's absolutely the truth. I feel that, and I know there are people today on this call listening because they want to find their purpose or get more on purpose and live more on purpose in their lives. If How would somebody maybe using curiosity go about creating a plan for stepping into their purpose?
Well, we have access to some amazing resources today, different from even 10 or 15 years ago. And I remember when I was raising my girls, who are now grown women, they're getting older than I am anymore. They used to call me Google Moira. And what that meant was if they had a question, they could come to me. But the truth is, we have access to this tool called Google, where if we're wondering about something, we can look it up. One thing that I suggest for folks, if they're simply curious about how they can find out more about themselves, is to give some thought to those that they have admired in life, whether it's a historical figure or somebody who's currently active in public life and so is in our face all the time, and Google them. Find out what their journey was like, because chances are there will be some aspect that you can connect to and identify with. And as you start to learn how others have pushed through those scary, uncertain times, you start to get ideas for what might work for you if you're in that process of exploration for yourself and curiosity. You can start to see how others manage to get through. And I think that's one of the beautiful things that I noticed as I was reading the entries in your book, this current piece, is how each woman chose a different way to address that unsettled uncertainty that they were faced as they realized they were not necessarily living on purpose. And so the processes that each of these women, each of the authors contributed to this book offers a really incredible wealth of ideas and inspiration for how someone else might go through moving through the process. And it's not that the process is going to be easy. There will be moments of discomfort and scariness, even fear, but to learn how others have moved through it, to get to that other side of what I call true enlightenment and access to joy, which is what I think all of this is about. It's about finding ways to be in joy as we bring our talents into the world. Those steps can become things that we bring into our own life, that we try on to see how they fit, to see how we like them, to see how they produce results for us.
Yeah, beautiful. I like that. And it is a process of exploration. It is a process of, questioning and the curiosity. And also another word that I know is important to you, and I think this will help some of our listeners, is that word clarity. And it's like, how do we clarify, for ourselves, whatever it is that's important to us, and I think that being on purpose, how do we clarify, maybe it can be anything really, Moira, clarity matters for every aspect of our lives, our relationships, our business, our careers, our health, all of it. What does clarity mean to you? And how can our listeners get more clear in their own lives?
That's a great question, Sue. I think clarity can sometimes feel overwhelming to achieve. We have this perception that clarity means absolute certainty around what you're doing. And that's not necessarily what it means. What it means to me is having a sense. And of course, having a sense allows for a certain amount of flexibility and fluidity in that moment of what I call clarity, but having a sense of how our personal values are being addressed in life. And so backing that up even one more step, it's about knowing what those values are. And identifying our personal values is something that can take years to come to clarity about. And I think we need to give ourselves permission to have it be a dynamic process where the values that are important when we are 12 or 13 may be different than those that are important when we're 23 or 24. And those will be different as we move into our 30s and 40s and 50s, even beyond into our 60s and 70s, because our experiences in life add nuance to what we appreciate about life, thus what we value. So in the book that I wrote, and I think in this book as well, there's a certain aspect of simplicity that's important to allow ourselves to experience. So not making things too complex, keeping it simple, backing it up and allowing it to be easy. And so starting with first and foremost, a clarity list of values. What is it that's important to us? What is it that when we see the word or embody the word by thinking about it, we feel excited or we feel happy? What is it that brings a smile to our face? And again, thinking about that aspect of being spiritual creatures on a physical journey, what does that mean as we unite the two dimensions? And where is the sweet spot? Where is the joy in that experience? That's where your values are. So there are some very simple exercises that one can do, really looking around and allowing that first thought that comes in when you say, what do I value in life? What is it that brings me joy? What is it that brings me peace? What is it that allows me to sleep soundly at night when I'm thinking about it? And, in my book, I have several exercises. I think there's over 100 different suggestions for how to move through that process of creating clarity, creating curiosity, and then finding the courage to step into what we discover as we're going through that journey of being curious and developing clarity.
Yeah, I love that. And I love your book. Your book does have lots of tools in it. It has real world ideas and real world thoughts, great questions. And, that list of values that you provide is great because I think, for me, I was looking at them, I thought, oh, I never thought of some of these as a value, but it makes a lot of sense, and that I never thought of it because some of them weren't important to me, but other people find great value in so many of those words. So I think that's great. Moira, I think that there are a lot of people who are perhaps, and we've gone through a lot of stuff this past year, they might be living in confusion or fear or being uncertain about how to move forward. And, you have another C word that is really good, this word confidence that is important. So, how can people who are feeling maybe unsettled right now go from this fear and confusion to feeling more confident and bold in their lives?
Well, I think it's connected to two qualities in our lives that this last year challenged. One is another C word, which is community, finding the community that supports the processes for you. So finding that community of like-minded individuals. So like-minded at some point might mean other people who are as confused as you are, and give one another permission to be confused, to be uncertain about what the next step might be or what is the truth for you. But then also having that support from the community to trust the insights that come as you explore both singularly and communally that process of developing clarity. And so in many ways, having a values list is great, but how about having a discussion about values from the standpoint of what you think your values are, and then what others are seeing you live into, and seeing where the gap might be so that you can continue to explore what's most deeply true for you. So having that clarity come is one of the things that creates more confidence, because there absolutely is a moment or many moments where we have a knowing very deep in our hearts, very deep in our souls around what is true for us. Having the community to support living into that truth is one of the things that helps to build more confidence to move forward with other options and choices that live into those values. So it's kind of a circular process that continues to build upon itself. And going back to the quote that I opened with is listen to what your conscience commands you to do. So finding 15, 20 minutes a day to be in nature, to listen to the music of the world, the birds, the bugs, the wind, the breezes, and paying attention, learning how to pay attention to the insights that come in those moments. So one thing that individuals can do to build their confidence around what they're feeling or hearing or receiving is to journal it, write it down. Whether you write it down on a post-it note that you pop up and look at a couple times a day until it falls off and you throw it out, whether you journal into a diary or a book or some type of hard copy that you can go back to and reflect on, or whether you simply journal on your computer, whatever works for you, but write down those insights so that you can refer back to what has come to you in quiet moments, because life is so full of so much noise that at this time in our history is simply a distraction from that capacity to connect to those deeper truths.
Yep, it is absolutely. Moira, I know that you love nature. You are out in nature all the time. You take lots of long walks with your dog. You post some pictures on Facebook that I just love seeing of you out there in the mountains on the trails doing things. I think I even saw that you moved your rower outside, so now you're doing some exercise outside and stuff. Tell me something about, you said we can get insights from nature. Tell me some insight that maybe you've had recently that when you were in nature, this came to you and you feel like it's important to share.
Wow, that's a challenging question to answer, because I am in nature the majority of my time. Sitting in an office is something I do very infrequently. Even when I'm coaching clients, I'm sitting outside, allowing again that energy of the planet to flow past me and through me and allow for inspiration to come, because I do believe that as natural creatures, we are inspired by the nature around us. And one of the things that I think strikes me most often is how transient and temporary so many aspects of what we give huge importance to are. And that the things that are hugely important are some of those more permanent aspects of the world. And how are we connecting with our place in it for this moment? We're here for such a short time that it doesn't make sense to me to do anything but honor those values and honor those inspirations and to live on purpose, because we have such a short span of time in the big scheme of things. Here in the Rocky Mountains, we're looking at boulders that have been moved by glaciers from hundreds of thousands of years ago. And that perspective is the thing that nature brings to me most often. It's just perspective, how the seasons change, the world changes, we change, and it's an ongoing, never-ending process. And so looking at how are we contributing to the most healthful way in which we can interact with that, and the world can benefit from our being here for our short time, is one of the inspirations that nature brings to me constantly. And again, I think there's so much noise in our lives nowadays that we can get pulled away from that truth, that so much of the minutia that we are told is important is not. And so to be able to love, to live with others in a kind, caring, gentle way is really much more important than fretting over some of the, day-to-day things that we tend to get distracted by.
Yeah. I love that, Moira, because I agree with you. There is so much noise and stuff going on. That's a good word. Minutia is the word because it's little stuff. It's in the scheme of things. So much of it is little, but we make it big. So with all this stuff going on, how can someone create this positive framework for themselves to live from and be in purpose, on purpose?
Well, I think one of the aspects that the book Women Living on Purpose brings to the forefront is living intentionally. So, having an intention around how your time here on the planet is going to be spent, how it might be remembered by others, and what you do might make an impact on what gets left behind once you're no longer here. So, living with intention starts to bring some of those more important aspects of being here up to the front. It starts to allow some of that distraction to be identified as what it is, which is just distraction. And it allows us to stay on track with creating a life that is full of purpose and living into those things that support us in continuing to create purpose.
Beautiful. I love it. And this is so important. I so appreciate everything you've said today, Moira. And I love your C words: clarity, consciousness, curiosity, confidence, all of it. It's so wonderful. Do you have any final words for our listeners?
Well, I think the one C word we haven't mentioned yet, which is hugely important to me and always has been since I was very young, is courage. And finding courage to move through those scary, uncertain times, finding the courage to reach out and ask for support as needed. So, creating community, finding the courage to perhaps go against the mainstream, the social influences, the distractions that are calling us to pay attention to things that are truly not important, and the courage to stay on track once we have identified what our purpose is. So, being courageous is something that um, takes practice. It's a skill set that gets developed through doing it. And so, I would encourage everyone to find those support pieces in your life that will allow you to find courage within yourself to keep moving on the journey and not settling for anything less than full fulfillment in this opportunity we have to live on purpose.
Beautiful. I love it. Moira, I so appreciate you, and I'm so happy that you wrote this forward for our book. And you're just a wealth of knowledge. You're a ray of sunshine in our lives today. So thanks so much for bringing nature to us through you. I appreciate that. And I know that there are people that will want to connect with you, learn more about you. Can you give us some contact information, your website and things, however they can reach you?
You bet. Right now, I'm in the process of upscaling and rebranding some of my material, but people can reach me through the coachesthatcare.org website, which was something that I organized last year as we sought to create ways to support others through the challenges that were popping up through this global event that has occurred and that we're still navigating our way through. So, coachesthatcare.org. I have a resource there that I just loaded up, which is a resilience report pack, which gives some ideas on how to find that place of bouncing back, being resilient, and finding, again, that courage to keep moving forward.
Awesome. I appreciate that so much. I'm going to go there and get that resilience pack. Everybody can use some resilience, that's for sure. And I am certainly one of those people. So thank you so much. Maura, I appreciate you so much. Thanks for being a part of this. Thanks for sharing all your wisdom and knowledge and stories. And you're just awesome. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Sue. I appreciate enormously your efforts for bringing together insights from others, organizing women to speak their truth, and provide these tools of inspiration for others who are seeking more music instead of the noise.
Yep, absolutely. That is what we're doing. Thanks for noticing that and being a part of it. And listeners, I know you are here. Like I said, you're on your own journey of purpose. You want to live more intentionally and with more joy and clarity and all of that in your own life. So thanks for being here. Continue to listen to the summit, and you will love buying this book on launch day. It is Women Living on Purpose. It shares stories of 20 authors that are just really amazing women. So the way to get that book and to get lots of bonuses from us is to go to our website on June 29th, which is our launch date. You go to our website, womenonpurposebook.com, and we will guide you to Amazon to buy the book. Now, you can either buy the paperback book or you can buy the Kindle book on that day only for 99 cents. And when you bring your receipt number back to our website, you plug it in, you will have access to more than 35 gifts from our authors and partners. And you will love the gifts, you will love the books, you will love the stories, you'll love all of it. So give yourself that gift and do that on June 29th, womenonpurposebook.com, and continue to listen to the summit. There is so much here for you. And I know that you are on your journey of purpose, so you'll love it. So thanks so much for being here. And I appreciate each of you. Have a beautiful day. Bye for now.